Hey everybody, Kenji here with Bayfield Digital. My company helps local businesses improve their visibility on Google and large language models like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude by implementing the best practices that we're going to talk about today. So in this video, the topic is, in the age of AI, is your small business visible, and what can you do about it? We will talk about best practices around how to optimize your visibility on Google and LLMs. So to start, I want to basically outline a very, very simple scenario for you, which is how a customer is going to choose a service provider or a business to work with. And it is literally as simple as two steps. Step one is discovery. So discovering possible businesses to choose from. And then number two, selecting the right one. Now, I know this seems really simplistic, but stick with me and you'll kind of understand why I break it out this way. So let's first talk about the discovery step. Now, just a few months ago, where I live in Northern California, we had a large series of storms. And in one of those storms, it did some damage to a tree in my backyard. And this tree was basically knocked over at an angle. And so basically it was going to die. The roots were uprooted and I tried to push it back up, but this is a large tree and there was no way that it was going to no way it was going to survive from this. And so I was in the need for a landscaper. Now, I happen to have a landscaper that I'd worked with in my iPhone contacts. And so I called my friend Burnaby. Now, in this case, I happen to have somebody in my contacts because I had gotten a recommendation or whatever before that. But let's say I were searching for a landscaper. So what I would do is go to Google or Google Maps and I would search for a landscaper near me. Now, remember, my friend Burnaby, and I will keep the name of his company confidential in this, but my friend does not show up anywhere on Google or anything. There's no visibility whatsoever. The only reason that I found him is because I got a word of mouth referral from somebody. And so if a business can survive on word of mouth referrals, that's great. But for those businesses who actually want to grow, having visibility digitally in Google and on large language models is really important. And so I've actually searched and searched and searched for all different ways on Google, on Facebook, on Google Maps, and I cannot find this particular business of my friend Burnaby. And so other than word of mouth, his business is completely invisible. So step one is discovery, right? So finding some options of who to call. Now, step two is selection. So in step two, I'm going to present a slightly different scenario. So let's say that you were going to find a service provider for your friend, cousin, whatever, for their daughter or niece. And the question was, find me a dance studio to send my daughter to. And let's say you found these two options. The first one, dance studio, and the second one, dance school, basically the same thing. And let's say that both of these schools/studios are within a close driving distance. And in this case, that is actually true. These are fairly close to each other, and so there is potential overlap here. So if you were faced with these two options of a dance studio or dance school to recommend to your sister, friend, cousin, whatever, for their child, which one would you choose? Would you choose the dance studio that had one review that was 1 star? Or would you choose the dance school that had 60 reviews averaging 4.9 stars? There's no question about it. The social proof on the dance school on the right would absolutely get the call. Now, it's possible that some people will call both, but in general, the vast majority of the leads organically are going to naturally drift towards the dance school that has a really strong social proof with their Google ratings and reviews. And so these kind of 2 points about this discoverability and conversion are really the points that we're going to be talking about today. And so the idea is your visibility as a business is being decided right now with or without you. So when customers are calling or looking for service providers, what is going to determine whether they call? Well, happy customers sometimes don't leave reviews, but unhappy ones often do. And so the profile is going to sometimes reflect the worst data that's possible. And oftentimes the data that is missing, so if you don't have a website or you don't have a Google business profile, some of these things will cause you to be invisible in searches. And also competitors with stronger profiles or better websites are going to show up even if you are a fantastic service provider. And the manual follow-up and keeping the content is really, really difficult. So this is a challenging problem right now. And so what is the solution? In general, there are really two ways to fix your visibility as a business. And those two levers that are in your control are really your Google business profile and your website. Now let's talk about the Google business profile for a second. So of the visibility of your business, about half, 52%, is controlled by the Google business profile. Now the other half, or 48%, is controlled based on your website. Now, of this 52% that is GBP, or Google Business Profile focused, 32% is all of the data on the Google Business Profile, the category, the hours, photos, and profile completeness. 20%, so 32 plus 20 adds up to the 52. This is based on the reviews and the reputation that we were just talking about a minute ago. Now, on the website, of that 48%, that is determined based on factors such as service pages, service area pages, and citations, and a few other factors. And we'll talk about all those throughout this video. Now, again, the point is that this affects who is going to find you and then who is going to call you. So this point on the left on Google ranking and visibility is going to affect whether you are discoverable, whether when someone searches for handyman near me or realtor near me or something like that, whether your business is even going to show up in discovery whatsoever. But then on the other hand, the social proof, the ratings and reviews, and the average star rating, that's going to determine the selection of who actually gets the call. And that is usually based on the social proof of that profile. Now let's talk about some of the reasons why. So Google has this thing called the map pack. So when you're on Google and you search for something, so in this case, handyman, Austin, Texas, in general, at the very top of the listings are going to be a number of sponsored listings, which is basically another way of saying ads. So people are paying good money to have their business featured by Google. Now, that's great to get strong visibility, but as soon as you stop paying for those ads, then that volume of leads goes away. And by the way, Google ads, just like Facebook ads, are very expensive. And so it costs a lot of money to get those leads, but it is very effective. So the very first organic leads, which are the leads that show up without any sort of sponsoring or ad, is what's known as the map pack. And so it is 3 and only 3 businesses that are served up in this map pack. And so as you can see here, if someone is searching for handyman in Austin, Texas, the 3 and only 3 businesses that Google serves up in the map pack have very strong Google reviews, 4.9 or 5 stars, and more than 100 reviews each. So let's say you are a fantastic handyman in the Austin area, and you have a 4.8 star, and you only have 90 reviews. You're not going to show up in the map pack. Now, a customer can click on this more businesses, or they can scroll down, but very few people do that. And the reason is because Google is serving up 3 fantastic options for you. So why would a customer scroll? Google has basically done the selection for them. So the point is, the visibility of a small business on Google is strongly determined based on their presence or absence in the map pack. So it's kind of you're in the top 3 or you're invisible completely. Now let's break down each of these pieces in a little bit more specificity. So let's start by talking about the Google business profile. And I refer to this as phase 1 because typically when I work with clients, we often start with the Google business profile as part of phase 1, and then eventually we go to the website, but we can do them in reverse order depending on what people are interested in. So first of all, you have to have a GBP and a website. So in this case, here's an example of a franchisor, medium size, and many of their franchisees do not have a Google business profile or website. And so just like the example of my landscaping friend, they're basically invisible to Google. Google has to search really hard to find them. And so if you're searching for a custom suit in the Bay Area, then it's going to be almost impossible to be found. And all the other competitors are going to be found above them. So first of all, you have to have a Google business profile and a website. Now, let's say you do have a Google business profile or GBP. Now, so that's step 1. The next step is having very high ratings and reviews. So in this case, you can see 4.9 stars and 116 reviews. That is pretty strong social proof. And that's going to improve the ranking on the algorithm when you have those kind of star ratings and high review count. So it helps both on the ranking algorithm and on the social proof when people decide who to call. Now, the next best practices for the Google reviews is to have recent reviews. So when I took this screenshot, somebody had posted a review just 2 days before that for this glass company. The other thing is for the owner to respond to the reviews right away. So let's just say within, a couple days of the review being posted. Now, why are these things important? Because Google is measuring the activity of the business. And if people are providing reviews on an ongoing basis, then that's a signal to Google that it is an active business. Now, the same thing is true on the response from the owner. If the owner is responding, then it's showing engagement to Google. It's a signal to Google. And so those businesses who are not receiving reviews and they're not responding to reviews, those are signals to weaken the status with Google and indicating that maybe that's not a very active business. And the businesses that are more active are going to likely get the call. Now let's talk about some of the other best practices in a Google business profile. Now, this is one of the absolute strongest Google business profiles that I've seen. It is basically a perfect 5-star rating, almost perfect, rounding up to 5 stars, and more than 3,000 reviews for a local heating and air conditioning company. This is fantastic. And so again, the review quantity and quality matters significantly in terms of this performance. But the other factors are things like NAP, which is name, address, and phone number. Now, there are a number of factors behind this. We can talk about that in more detail in another conversation. But basically, the NAP, the name, address, and phone number, are distributed across the internet via various directories. And so having consistent NAP or citations across all of the internet is really important to make sure that there's no confusion, because any of that confusion that the websites have is going to reduce the rankings. The other thing is the hours. Now, in this case, this business is open 24 hours. Now, are they really open 24 hours? Maybe not, but they have some sort of answering service. So no matter what time you call, you're going to get an answer. And that is actually important, because if the businesses are closed around you, but this one is open 24 hours, Google is going to more likely feature them. And so the opening hours actually do matter. So in general, some of the other best practices, we just talked about NAP, the name, address, and phone number. Some other really important features or characteristics are having the correct primary and secondary category. Now, this seems minor, it's something you set it once and then forget it. But the problem is if you don't have this and it's inconsistent across the internet, that is actually a real problem. We talked about hours of operation, the website URL, the exact same URL, whether it's www or dropping a www, anything of that nature. Having the same canonical website is incredibly important. Identical business description, founding date, making sure there are no duplicative listings. So for example, if you did a rebrand, then it's possible that there may be a duplicate listing for your business. Or if you acquired the business or sold the business, then that could lead to duplicate listings. Also having a claimed versus an unclaimed Google business profile. A few additional things. So on the left, you can see an example of what's known as a SAB, a service area business. So this is one where there's not a physical address that anchors the business. And the business is basically saying anywhere in this area we can operate. Now, if you're doing a custom suit and you're looking for a custom suit in the San Francisco Bay Area, are you really going to go all the way up here to Cloverdale? That is a really far drive. It is highly unlikely that Google is actually going to serve you up for custom suit when you're in Cloverdale if the business is actually based in the San Francisco Bay Area. So actually having a really high service area business coverage like that is actually detrimental to your Google rankings. And in general, if you don't have a physical business, that actually hurts your Google rankings significantly. And so what's much better is to have an actual physical location that provides very strong trust signals to Google, customers walking by and checking in and that sort of thing. These are all trust signals that Google looks at. And so in general, having a physical address is going to help you rank much higher on Google. So if you can possibly do it, then I strongly suggest that you have a physical address for it, for your business. Additional things you can do for your Google business profile, you can post images in your GBP. So for example, the GBP, Google likes images posted by both customers and owners. And they like to show things like the team that provides the service and the van that is driving around to perform the service, for example. Pictures of the jobs themselves or the services that are provided, before and after images, those sort of things. So these are strong image signals to Google. Additional things are GBP posts. So maybe it's almost like a blog post style, where it's images and some light text, maybe some tips, advice, some useful information. Let's say you do it about every single week. It doesn't have to be more frequent than that, but not 0 times. And using local terms and SEO keywords. And also you can see the last point here, post and answer customer questions, because Google is constantly scouring the internet to see if which businesses are answering the types of questions that customers are asking. And in general, this shows very strong activity and engagement by the business. And so this business is going to rank incredibly high for any keywords in this area. Okay, a few other things that are important is requesting reviews. Now, that's a core offering that we provide at Bayfield Digital. So the first thing we do is we reactivate previous customers. So what we do is we take the customer contact list from previous customers that have been serviced, and we send out review requests by both email and SMS, and we do it as a drip method, meaning we don't just slam with thousands of former customers, and we do that for a number of reasons I can talk about another time. Also on an ongoing basis. So as you perform a service, let's say you're a handyman and you complete a service with a customer and you close that out in your CRM, then we will immediately send the review request via email and SMS to the customer. And with that recency, that typically gets a higher conversion rate from receiving the request to actually submitting the review. And so that is a core function that we provide to get review requests. We also post those reviews on social, and this just adds to the social proof, because if your business is advertising all of the 5-star reviews they're getting from customers, then people that see it start to see that that's a high quality business. A direct invitation to leave a review is totally fine. These QR codes, so they can scan it and leave a review. That's a very good idea. Just do not push it on customers to leave a review while they're still on location, because that actually violates Google's terms of service. Now, again, I talked a little bit about the placement in the map pack. So again, the map pack is incredibly important, and it's really significant for you as a business owner to land within that top 3 in the map pack. That's what's going to determine whether or not you're going to get the call. A few other key factors about what to do and what not to do regarding Google reviews. So do not do review gating. So what this means is you first send customers a note saying, how was your experience with the business? If they give you a sad face or a yellow, a red or a yellow face, then they go to an internal form. If they give you a green face, and they go to a Google review. This is expressly prohibited by Google's terms of service. There are a lot of people who try to do this review gating in order to boost their reviews. This is very much against Google's policies. And so we don't do this at Bayfield Digital. We don't allow our customers to do any review gating because it violates Google's terms of service. Additional things not to do: don't create incentives. Google expressly prohibits any sort of incentive, whether it's a discount, gift card, loyalty points, refunds, free merch, or anything like that. Any kind of perk or benefit is forbidden, even including offering an incentive to revise or remove a negative review. It's also forbidden to do fake or incentivized reviews from insiders, so family, friends, etc. That's not allowed by Google. Content that's not based on a real experience. So if somebody makes something up or they don't actually have any experience with the business, that is forbidden. It's also forbidden to buy reviews from third-party or bulk services. And also slamming Google with a huge number of reviews too quickly. Now, this is what I mentioned before, that we drip our review requests out, because if Google sees a huge slug of reviews that come in, on one hand, that's a good thing for the business. But on the other hand, Google thinks that there's something unethical happening there, and that will oftentimes remove all those reviews. So we tend to drip out our reviews to just space them out over time, so Google starts to see it as reasonable and real reviews. Okay, a few other new rules that Google has added recently. So on-premise pressure, that's kind of what I mentioned about the QR code just a minute ago. If you're pressuring a customer to leave a review while they're on site, that is expressly forbidden, including having tablets or iPads at the front desk, asking someone to pull out their phone, please submit a review right now. That is not allowed. Shared devices for review submission, this kind of starts to signal to Google that there's something going on. So again, I would suggest not having an iPad at the front for people to just submit reviews that way. New reviews are counted and weighted less, and so reviewers are weighted less. So if a business receives a whole bunch of reviews from brand new Google accounts, and that probably indicates to Google that there is something sketchy going on there. And some newer things, having staff quotas. So businesses that say you must hit a certain number of views in order to get, to win a contest or not get punished or something like that, that is forbidden. Also asking for the reviewer to specifically mention the staff name. So please, mention my name in the review. That's not okay. Now that kind of hits some industries hard because that's been very common in the past. For example, please mention your service advisor in healthcare, automotive, or what other business. So it is totally fine for the customer to mention somebody's name, but it is not okay to ask them to mention somebody's name specifically. Now, how does Google enforce these provisions? In general, it's AI and it is retroactive. So if they go back and use their tools to detect reviews that were submitted in the past that they think are contrary to their terms of service, they will go ahead and remove them even in the past. Google last year said it removed 292 million reviews that they said violated their terms of service. All right, let's talk about phase 2, the website. So the important thing is turning your website into a visibility asset. So having dedicated service pages, service area pages, citation consistency, and technical and on-page signals. So going back to my friend, the landscaper, so he's a fantastic service provider, but he has no digital presence whatsoever. So if he just had a website, that alone would help out significantly in terms of his visibility. You must have a website. If you try to do something like have a Facebook link, it goes to your Facebook, that's still very insignificant relative to Google. Google wants you to have a proper website. Here's a best practice. So service pages. So if you go and look around at some different service providers, you're going to see that they have service area pages. So in this case, they have different categories of service: plumbing, sewer, drain, gas, water heaters, etc. And within each one, they've got a dozen or so different service pages. This is a very robust website in terms of the service pages they offer. Google wants to have a dedicated page for every single service that they offer, because if someone is searching for faucet, how do I fix frozen pipes, then this business is going to rank on Google in the local area. So having a dedicated page for each service that is offered. Now, the other thing is to have different content on each one. I see a lot of service providers basically just copy and paste the same exact text for every single one, and that's not something you should do. You should really have a dedicated content that is unique to each one. So if you do roofing, then you want to have different content for your roof repair page than you do for your roof replacement page. Now, service area pages. So this is basically the areas that you operate in. So Roto-Rooter has some of the best SEO performance. Now, they are a national company, and so they do have an advantage there. But they basically have different pages for each local area that they operate in. And for each one, they have unique content. So the Half Moon Bay page, where I live, there is unique content about the uniqueness of Half Moon Bay, and that is different from the Pacifica page or the San Mateo page or something like that. So having unique content for each specific page is really important. So even if you offer the same exact service in Daly City versus Belmont, California, having unique content that specifically talks about the rules that are in that town versus another town, or some service that you performed there and a review that you got from a customer in Belmont or whatever it is, or just the difference in the climate or the geology or whatever the differences are, having unique content for each of those service area pages. Now, the best possible scenario is where you have a combination of service and service area pages. So again, as I mentioned, Roto-Rooter is one of the best in the business. In this case, they even have this down to Bensonhurst, a town in New York, and specifically the drain cleaning service that they provide in Bensonhurst. Now, that is very, very specific, and that can create a lot of different pages. But if you're very serious about local SEO, these are the type of things that you do. Now, let's talk about LLMs. So let's start. I'll go to the 3 major LLMs. I'll talk Gemini, ChatGPT, and Claude. So the question here is really, if someone is searching for a business, a plumber on Gemini or ChatGPT, how can they find my business? And are these factors influenced by, can they be influenced by me? So let's start with Gemini. So there are really 4, main kind of areas that Gemini, can pull data from in order to find businesses. So first is the Google Business Profile and Google Reviews. Next is Google Web Index, so when the site content on the page. Also the citations and NAP consistency, name, address, and phone number. And then the website content itself. So all these things are things that I can help influence, and so I can help influence your Gemini business, which then feeds pulls directly from Google business profiles. Now, most of the same capabilities are available on ChatGPT. The one difference is Yelp is something that ChatGPT will pull from, but Yelp has kind of a closed system, and so you cannot influence any kind of Yelp reviews. But basically, every other source of data that ChatGPT pulls, I have the ability to influence that, whether that's just a citation or organic site content by optimizing a website. Those are things that I can help with. And the same is true with Claude. Claude pulls from a few other sources like Brave and the website itself. And so all of these things are factors that can be influenced on basically all the major large language models. One final best practice on a website is to have either a lead capture form like you can see on the right. So maybe a chat window pops up and, hey, sorry that we missed you, or, it's too busy to call us, give us your information and we'll contact you. So this is a really basic capability that, all websites should have. Or even more so, even better is a live chatbot or an AI assistant. Now, this is something where I can develop these chatbots for you. I train the chatbot on your website content and your policies and procedures specifically. And so this is something that can be really tuned to answer a lot of questions for the customer. And in general, that provides significant conversion because it answers a lot of their basic questions. And so they get much closer to the buying decision without even having to talk to somebody. And so a lot of clients really love these live chatbots. Now, one of the last things I'm going to talk about is a digital visibility scorecard. So this is basically an audit that I perform, and there are basically 2 pages to this. Page 1 is the Google business profile itself. So I will evaluate your Google business profile, or anybody that wants me to, on a number of metrics such as the review count, the star rating, recency, response rate, and things of that nature. And I'll compare it against industry benchmarks. So not just general, but for example, if it's a commercial cleaning business, I will measure your actual reviews. Let's say you have 15 reviews when the benchmark for the commercial cleaning industry is 179. And the benchmark for the legal industry is going to be something totally different. So in this case, I will provide a score against the industry benchmark for your specific business category. The second page is looking at your website's SEO fundamentals. So I'll look at things like the service and topic depth. So that's the service pages, the local service area coverage, title tags meta, which is something we didn't talk about a lot, but these are basically the kind of technical SEO that you can see on page. And so I can evaluate your website based on these features as well. And so in general, this is, I would consider this kind of an $89, $90 value, and I'm happy to give this to you for free if you want to email me. Basically, all you have to do is just send me your Google business profile. So basically, you just click on, let's say this is your Google business profile. On the right side, there's a share button. Click that, and then click the copy link, and then just email that link to me, kenji@bayfielddigital.com, and I will go ahead and turn around a 2-page scorecard for you that will be a customized evaluation of your business against the best practices, and I'll email that back to you. And again, this is a $90 value, and I'm happy to give this to you for free. So again, I just wanted to say again, thanks for your time today. I know this is a reasonably long video, but I think it's really important content that we covered. If you are ready to start building the visibility of your small business, I'm happy to help you, happy to have any kind of discussions about it. Our process is very simple. We handle the setup, you approve it, we do a quick onboarding call, and then from there we execute it for you on an ongoing basis. We don't have to have you involved on an ongoing basis. It's something that we handle once we complete the initial setup. So again, Kenji Jovic here with Bayfield Digital. My contact information is at the bottom of this slide. Please give me a call if you want any additional information. We've got a bunch of other YouTube videos on our channel about other factors in Google business profiles and websites. And thank you for your time. Appreciate it.